Hey guys, tonight we're diving into one of the crunchiest, softest, most suspiciously underappreciated tales in colonial culinary history. How pâté, a squishy French liver paste, ended up sleeping snugly inside a Vietnamese baguette. Yes, you heard that right. Buckle up, it's time for a slow, crumb-by-crumb unraveling of this sleepy sandwich saga. You're about to hear more about liver spread than you ever asked for. You sure you're gonna survive this? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and what time it is right now, just so I know exactly when and where someone fell asleep to pâté. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking, slowly, somewhere vaguely familiar. The smell of warm bread drifts through the air. You glance to the side and there's a small streetcar that's glass foggy from the inside. Steam rises. A crisp sound like snapping dry leaves echoes quietly. Someone just bit into a freshly toasted baguette. You feel the crunch in your jaw like sympathetic pain. And somehow it feels like comfort. But this isn't Saigon. Not yet. This is Paris, 1885, and you're freezing. The sky is gray in that very Parisian way, where even the sun seems like it's wearing a wool coat. You tug your scarf tighter, shoes soaked from the slush. You're standing in line for bread. Again, see, the French love their bread, but back then it wasn't exactly the sexy, crusty fluff bomb you think of today. It was hard, dry. You could knock a thief out with it, which honestly might have been its second most popular use. The daily baguette had to last, often baked, dense, and overcooked to preserve shelf life. Imagine chewing on something between driftwood and regret, which is where the paste comes in. One day, as you chew painfully on yesterday's lunch, someone hands you a tiny tin of pâté. It's pork liver, they whisper, like it's a secret. You raise an eyebrow, it smells earthy, a bit metallic, but you smear it on your bread anyway. Soft, salty, rich, like someone gave your dry stick of sadness a spa day. Suddenly, the bread isn't a punishment, it's tolerable. Pâté didn't come from a culinary revolution. It came from a very French solution to leftovers. Pork liver, fat, herbs, all things cheap and, let's be honest, kind of gross if left alone. But together, blended, baked gently, they became something smooth, something decadent, something middle-class people pretend it's fancy. You walk past a charcuterie. The smell of garlic and meat smoke lingers in the air. There in the window lies small ramekins of rillettes, pâtés, and terrines, decorative, cold, waiting. You pause and wonder, who's the first person to look at an animal's liver and think, I bet I could spread that on toast? Some historians believe pâté has roots as far back as Roman times. Others insist it became fashionable in the 1700s among French aristocrats. The truth is probably more like someone was poor, had organs to use, and didn't want to waste them. Culinary desperation, after all, is the mother of weird, delicious things. You take a bite, it's still weird, but comforting. Pâté becomes more common. By the late 1800s, it's being canned, exported, sent across France, into Belgium, into colonies. Because what's colonialism without forcing your meat spreads on other people? The first tins head towards Southeast Asia in crates stamped with names like Henaf and Larnaudi. Metal boxes of French pork paste on wooden boats, sloshing for weeks through humid air. Did they think the Vietnamese would love it, or just tolerate it politely while secretly feeding it to stray cats? Either way, the pâté arrived, but you don't know that yet. Right now, in this memory, you're still in Paris. The wind bites. You wipe your lips with the back of your glove, licking a smear of paint from the edge. You can't decide if you like it or not, but you know this, it makes the bread bearable. Which, for now, is enough. A horse clops by, someone sneezes, you walk on. As you pass a group of schoolboys kicking a lump of snow, you catch a scent from a nearby cafe. Not just pâté this time, there's warm butter, stewed onions, maybe a dash of wine in the air. French cuisine, even in its offcuts, knows how to seduce you softly. You wonder what it would be like if this odd spread, this modest savior of jaw strength, ever left France. If it ever found its way into hands that didn't see it as a delicacy, but as a necessity. Or maybe even an art form. But that's for later. For now, you just keep walking. The bread still crunches under your arm. The tin in your pocket is warm from your body heat. You don't know it yet, but you're carrying the first ingredient of a legend. And back in a distant future, somewhere in a night market, a young vendor is preparing to squeeze that same paste onto a split baguette next to pickled carrots and sprigs of coriander. But you'll get there, eventually. For now, you walk and chew and wonder how something so weirdly soft could ever become something so right. You're still walking, maybe in your mind, maybe in someone else's memory, but the cold hasn't let go yet. The Paris streets of 1885 blur slightly now, like you've fallen into a slow-motion loop of crunchy bread and liver-flavored uncertainty. And yet, somehow you're drawn into another scent trail. This time, not warm and inviting, but dry, dusty, and just a little stale. You turn a corner and find yourself inside what looks like an early bakery. The walls are lined with dark loaves, none of them smiling. The air smells like flour and low expectations. Welcome to the world of pâté, French bread. The driest, saddest, chewiest thing that has ever disrespected your molars. In this era, bread isn't made for comfort. It's made to survive, made to travel, made to be thrown into sacks and carried across long distances by men with bad backs and no teeth left. The baguette as you know it. The soft inside, crispy outside golden dream doesn't even really exist yet. Back then, the baguette was more like a bag slap. Your jaw aches just thinking about it. It's not crusty in a good way. It's crusty like old leather. You pick one up off a cart and knock it against your knee. It sounds like knocking on a coffin lid. You wince. Someone nearby chuckles. You look over. It's an old woman, scarf tied tight, eyes sharp. She nods toward the bread and mutters something in French that sounds suspiciously like, "You'll need wine with that." She's right, you will, but you don't drink. Not tonight. Tonight, you're just tasting history, slowly, crumb by crumb, tooth by tooth. This version of bread wasn't meant to be a star. It was a vehicle, a chewable napkin, something to keep your hands from getting greasy during lunch. You imagine someone biting into one of these old loaves without anything on it. Their soul exiting the body halfway through the crust. And that's the thing. Bread in France wasn't romantic yet, not until the early 1900s when baking laws shifted, ovens improved, and someone had the bright idea to add steam. Yes, steam. That's the secret behind the soft inner part of modern baguettes, but back in your scene. Nope, these loaves had the emotional warmth of a tax form. Now here's the weird part, people still lined up for them. Why? Because it was cheap. Because it filled your stomach. Because after 2 days of chewing one, you didn't need to eat again for a week. And if you toasted it, you might accidentally invent shrapnel. Some historians still debate exactly when the baguette became a more refined object. Some say it was post-Bouillon, when soldiers came home and demanded food they could bite without fear. Others point to specific bakers in Paris who experimented with longer, thinner loaves to speed up baking times. But most agree, before the 20th century, French bread was not a dream, it was a duty. You break off a chunk, your teeth hesitate, it's like chewing on determination. That's where pâté makes its move. Soft meets hard, fat meets starch. It's not love, it's survival. Spread a little pork liver on this jawbreaker of a loaf, and suddenly you have something almost pleasant, almost like putting lipstick on a rock. But hey, it works, and pâté spreads, not just in texture, in culture. It sneaks into every crevice of French society, from the lowest taverns to the fluffiest ballrooms. Everyone wants a taste, especially because by now they're stuffing everything into pâté. Liver, kidneys, leftover duck, who knows, probably a boot or two. You glance around, someone offers you a slice on a tiny round of bread, toasted this time, better, warmer, slightly more edible. Still, nothing about this moment screams, export me to Southeast Asia. Yet you start to feel it. That strange colonial itch, the same one that whispered to France, hey, let's go civilize some folks while bringing them liver paste in tins. And that's exactly what they did. In the background, a steamship whistles. Barrels are being loaded onto wooden ramps. Crates marked charcuterie to pork wobble slightly. Some will arrive fresh, some will arrive bloated from humidity. Some will be opened and quietly discarded, the smell too aggressive to forgive. But some, just a few, will find new homes in strange kitchens, handled by unfamiliar fingers, tasted with suspicious eyes, adjusted, tweaked, seasoned. Not yet, but soon. Right now, you watch a man pick up a loaf with gloved hands. He sniffs it, taps it gently, listens, like the bread is telling him a secret. It's not, it's just stale. He shrugs, walks away. You stay there a little longer in this dry, flour-dusted Paris, where bread is still just fuel, where pâté is still an afterthought, where no one, absolutely no one, has thought to slice a baguette open, smear some pork liver paste inside, and toss in a few herbs for fun. But don't worry, that part's coming. You don't realize it at first, but something has changed. The air feels heavier now. The flour has settled and you're no longer in that chilly Parisian bakery. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, cobbled, dusty, humid. You hear a different kind of horn in the distance. Less brass band, more bicycle bell. A mosquito floats by your ear and instinctively you swat. Welcome to Hanoi. It's 1895 and the French have arrived in full colonial fashion. Wide-brimmed hats, linen suits, the scent of pomade and superiority. They've brought their books, their soldiers, their language, and of course their food. Because what is cultural domination without a good lunch? You walk down a narrow street. The air smells different now. A mix of roasting peanuts, distant incense, and liver. You follow it, more out of curiosity than hunger. That's when you see it. A French officer, red-faced, fanning himself with a menu while sitting at a too-small table. In front of him, a thick slice of crusty bread and a blob of something grayish-pink. Pâté. It's made the journey, grated, shipped, steamed, and stacked. It has arrived on Vietnamese soil, not gracefully but stubbornly. The officer scoops a bit onto his bread, takes a bite in size, more from heat than satisfaction. Across the street, a young Vietnamese boy watches with cautious fascination. He's barefoot, dusty, curious. He wrinkles his nose. His grandmother sells rice nearby. He's never seen meat look like that. Soft, like clay, with a shimmer of fat on top. He watches, every day. At first, pâté exists only in French kitchens behind glass, protected by ceremony and a language barrier. It is served at colonial clubs, not street corners. But the locals are observant. They watch. They learn. They wonder what it tastes like. Some try it and immediately spit it out. Too rich, they say. Too strange. Others raise an eyebrow, then go back for another bite. It's confusing. Salty. Smooth. Almost fishy. Definitely foreign. But over time, taste buds adapt. Recipes adjust. A Vietnamese cook working in a colonial household experiments mixes the pâté with shallots, garlic, a dash of local spice. Something starts to shift. A version of pâté is born, not quite French, not yet Vietnamese, just something in between. You sit on a short wooden stool in a courtyard watching a man stir a pot over low heat. He's blending pork liver with lard, fish sauce, and black pepper. It smells rich, familiar, but not. He pours it into a clay bowl and lets it cool. The surface shines. You dip your finger in, taste it. The salt hits first. Then the depth. It's rougher than French pâté, grainier, a little wild, like it doesn't care about silver spoons or white gloves. The French don't love this version. Too strong, they mutter, but the locals, they get it. They recognize it. It spreads slowly, not like wildfire, but like warm butter, into alleyways, down market stalls, between fingers of hungry workers looking for something cheap, quick, and filling. Of course, the bread is still a problem. The French baguettes are expensive, dry, and hard to find. Only the wealthy have access to the daily deliveries from the colonial bakeries. The rest, they chew, they endure, they adapt. But one day, the vendor tries something new. He slices the bread down the middle, not all the way, just enough. He scoops in some of the local pâté, adds a bit of cucumber, maybe a sprig of coriander stolen from his wife's soup pot. It's not beautiful, it's not even intentional, it's just lunch. But someone sees it, tries it, nods, and just like that, the seed is planted. Not the whole banh mi, not yet, but the core idea. Soft, salty paste, in bread. A European shell with a Vietnamese soul. Some historians still argue about the exact moment it happened. Who did it first, whether it was in Hanoi or down in Saigon. But most agree it started with leftover pâté and leftover bread. A love story made from scraps. You lean back, the sun is high now. A cicada screams somewhere nearby. You're full somehow. Even though you haven't really eaten anything, you just tasted the beginning. The heat is rising now, not dramatically, not yet, but in that sticky, creeping way that clings to your collar and settles behind your knees. You're still in Hanoi, but the years have shifted. It's the early 1900 ends, and the city hums with restless energy. Bicycles rattle across uneven stones. Women in non-lot duck under woven baskets. Someone shouts in French, Someone else curses in Vietnamese, and somewhere not far from the Red River, there's a shipment arriving. Not silk, not rice, but tins. Metal clings against metal as a crate is cracked open. Inside, pâté. Dozens of cans neatly labeled, absurdly shiny under the morning sun. You step closer. The smell isn't strong. The cans are sealed, but you can already imagine it. The odd metallic tang, the creamy fat, the vague echo of pork. The tins are stacked onto carts and wheeled away, some bound for the French officers' quarters, others to cafes that serve croissants no one asked for. But one tin falls, clatters, rolls, and is picked up by the wrong hands, or maybe the right ones, depending on your view of fate. A young Vietnamese cook, barely 20, pockets it, not out of rebellion, out of curiosity. He's heard of pâté, served it, washed the fancy ceramic ramekins, but he's never tasted it. That night, in a cramped kitchen with a leaky ceiling, he opens the can with a knife. The sound is soft, a hiss, then a sticky pop. He sniffs it, hesitates, dips a spoon in. The texture surprises him, not quite solid, not quite liquid. He spreads a bit on cold rice. Tastes, it's weird, but also good, so he makes more. Not from the tin, that's too expensive to replicate, but from ingredients he understands. Pork liver, shallots, lard, fish sauce, sugar, pepper. He mashes, boils, stirs, cools. It isn't pâté, not in the French sense, but it's close and better. You sit nearby, cross-legged on the floor. A small oil lamp flickers. The air smells like smoke and meat and a little desperation. You watch him toast a scrap of old bread, then smear the warm pâté across its surface. He eats it, chews slowly, thinks. Then he smiles. The next day he tries selling it from a woven basket near the market. Not the tin stuff, his own version, homemade. He spreads it on torn pieces of bread left over from a colonial breakfast house, pairs it with a few pickled radishes. People look skeptical, some walk away. But one woman, old, sharp-eyed, stops. She tastes, doesn't speak, then pays. That's how it begins, quietly, without banners or songs, a single stolen tin, a borrowed idea, a flavor repurposed, and soon others follow. Young cooks, market vendors, housemaids, all experimenting. They add lemongrass, star anise, a pinch of chili. They argue about texture, about salt. One swears by caramelizing the liver in fish sauce. Another swears that's disgusting, but it grows. Pâté becomes something else. No longer a French artifact, no longer bound by silver spoons and tablecloths. It becomes Vietnamese. Bold, unapologetic, unpredictable. You taste a new version now. Someone has added minced garlic and dried shallots fried until golden. It melts on your tongue, gritty but comforting, like memory in food form. Still, the bread's not right. Too dry, too foreign. People try rice paper, steamed buns, plain rice, but it doesn't click. Not yet. You pass a cart selling French loaves at half price. They're yesterday's stock. Hard, tough. The vendor shrugs when you ask. Still edible, he mutters. So you buy one. Back in the kitchen, you steam it gently over a pot. It softens slightly, enough to slice, enough to hold pâté. The crust is still sharp, but the inside, pillowy. The contrast works. Unexpected, pleasing. You serve it to a friend, they nod, and somewhere a tiny bell rings. No one hears it, but it tolls for every great food moment before it. The quiet collision of cultures, the awkward fusion that somehow becomes something better. Not elegant, not pristine, but real. You lean back on your heels, watching the city blink its sleepy eyes open. Something has started, and even if no one's quite sure what it is yet, it's delicious. You're still in Hanoi, but the streets feel different now. Louder, busier. The calendar has shuffled forward, and the world is shifting beneath your feet. The early 20th century hums with confusion. Bicycles clash with rickshaws, loud French engines sputter through alleys never meant for wheels. And there's something else in the air now, a hunger. Not just for food, but for change. But tonight, you're not chasing revolutions. You're following the scent of meat. It's early evening. Lanterns glow soft yellow over cracked sidewalks. You wander through a market, half lost, half lured by the promise of something warm. A man at the corner yells in a mix of French and Vietnamese, gesturing at a small food cart. He's pushing it slowly, one squeaky wheel dragging. He lifts the lid. Inside, a large, battered tin container. The smell is immediate, savory, fatty, familiar. Homemade pâté. Beside it, stacked precariously on a tray, are pieces of baguette. Not the pristine, golden kind. These are older, rough around the edges, their crusts threatening dental rebellion. But still, bread. The vendor cuts a piece open with a rusted knife and spreads spreads a generous scoop of pâté inside, adds a few slices of cucumber and pickled daikon. No fanfare, no garnish. He wraps it in waxy paper and hands it to you. You take a bite, crunch, salt, tang. The bread resists you for a moment like a dog testing a new owner, but the pâté softens the blow. It melts, filling in the gaps with its greasy charm. The pickles slice through the richness like gossip at a tea shop, sharp, necessary. It's not perfect, but you take another bite anyway. And just like that, you're part of something quiet, strange, and slowly spreading. Behind you, two boys share a single sandwich. One eats the crust, the other digs out the filling with his fingers. A woman nearby eyes your food, considers buying one, changes her mind. Not because she doesn't want it, because she's waiting to see if you survive. You do. Barely. You ask the vendor where he got the pâté. He shrugs, says his cousin makes it with leftover liver from the wet market, adds lard and garlic, and cooks it down for hours. Smells like the fucun for hours. Not like the French, he says, better. He's not wrong, and he's not alone. Across the city, others begin doing the same. Not copying exactly, just adapting, reimagining. Some use chicken liver. Others add duck fat. One stall mixes it with crushed peanuts. A mistake maybe, but a delicious one. And then there's the bread problem. Always the bread. It's too expensive, too dry, too colonial. But that's when someone, maybe a baker, maybe a nobody, gets clever. They start baking shorter loaves. Lighter, less crust, more air. Bread that can be sold cheaply, quickly, eaten on the go. Not French baguettes, Vietnamese baguettes. You don't notice it at first, but the shape has changed. The texture, even the color. Less golden, more pale, but with a whisper of rice flour that makes the crust shatter like thin ice when you bite. Suddenly everything fits. The light bread, the rich pâté, the acidic pickles. They weren't designed to go together, but they behave like old friends anyway. Some historians still argue about this period, when exactly the Vietnamese began taking ownership of these ingredients, when fusion became foundation, when imitation became innovation. The truth, it happened in parts like this, in side streets and whispers, in hands that didn't wait for permission. You take another bite, it's messy. The pâté oozes a little onto your hand. You lick your fingers, startled by how natural it feels. You're not eating French food anymore. You're eating something entirely new. And no one, not even the French, saw it coming. It's early morning now. A noise stirs in soft layers, the rumble of a passing bicycle, the hiss of something frying in oil, the gentle thud of a vendor unfolding a wooden stool. You're awake, but not fully, half dreaming. The kind of morning where everything feels wrapped in steam. Walks slowly past rows of makeshift stalls. A woman in her 60s waves a fan over a glass case filled with bread rolls. They look modest, nothing flashy, but you can tell she's guarding treasure. Her cart has no name, just scratches, layers of stickers, and a single rusting container at the center wrapped in cloth like a sleeping baby. She lifts the lid. The smell hits you. It's pâté, but not like before. Richer, deeper, almost smoky. She dips a small spoon in and spreads it gently into a halved loaf. Not slathered, not rushed, a careful, practiced sweep. Then come the additions, a touch of butter, a few ribbons of pork, cold cuts, pickled carrot, daikon, cilantro, a splash of soy sauce, one slice of chili. She presses the loaf closed with both hands like it's a sacred ritual, wraps it in paper, hands it to you. You blink. You haven't even asked for one, but she smiles like she's known you for years. You sit nearby on a stool shorter than your knees and take a bite. Crunch, cream, acid, heat, and then the butter. Where did that come from? Smooth, salty, absurdly French, but the pâté pushes back. They blend, they argue, then they make peace right there on your tongue. The old woman nods, watching you. Beaufort, she says. French butter, imported, smuggled maybe, used only for the fancy customers, and apparently you. She pours herself a tea and leans back. You stay quiet. That kind of silence, where both people are thinking about food like it's philosophy. You watch her work. She preps each sandwich like a letter being sent, each one slightly different. Some with meat floss, some with soy-glazed tofu, but all with that same core, the pâté and the butter. You realize something then, something subtle. This isn't just about flavor anymore, it's about layering, contrast, drama, like a movie in a sandwich. Still, not everyone gets it. Some pass by with raised eyebrows. Why butter and pâté, they mutter, too rich. Others say it's unnecessary, wasteful, but people return, quietly, regularly, like clockwork. Some historians say this was the moment banh mi stopped being improvised, that the addition of butter, proper cold slab-cut French butter, was a turning point. The declaration, this wasn't just survival food, it was becoming something elegant. They debate about origins, of course, always. Did the butter pâté combo start in Hanoi, in Saigon, in some forgotten alley by accident? No one knows, no one agrees, but everyone remembers the taste. You finish the sandwich slowly, like it's your last. The woman offers you tea, you nod, sipping quietly, and then you notice something behind the cart, tucked under an old towel. A box. You ask her. She lifts the corner of the towel. Inside, a row of small polished silver spoons. You look confused. She shrugs. They used to eat pâté with these, she says, in France. You both laugh. You imagine a stiff old officer in 1903 sitting on a velvet chair, daintily scooping pork liver onto a cracker with one of these spoons. Now, that same paste, maybe better, is being smeared into crusty rolls by grandmothers in alley carts. You wonder what the French would think. Then again, you don't really care. You're too full, too content, too enchanted by the mystery of how something so soft, so old, so foreign could end up here, in this exact moment, wrapped in butter between your fingers. The street is quieter now. Afternoon is slipping into that lazy hour where shadows stretch long across the stone. You lean against the crumbling wall in Hanoi's old quarter, a little warm, a little dazed, still thinking about that last bite, the way the butter and pâté melted together like two strangers on a slow dance floor, and then, almost without noticing, you're pulled again. The street shifts. A new scent emerges. Not bread this time, but heat and humidity, and starched linen soaked in sweat. You've stepped into a different part of the story. It's 1912. The colonial presence in Vietnam isn't just architecture and laws anymore. It's rhythm. It's routine. It's men in stiff uniforms speaking French under green awnings, sipping black coffee, reading newspapers they pretend to understand. You watch one of them now, mustache carefully waxed, boots impossibly shiny. Wave down a street boy with a basket of bread. He grabs a roll, bites, chews, grimaces. It's dry, still, but he's too proud to complain. He reaches into his satchel, pulls out a silver tin. With a little flourish, he opens it. Inside, a neat slab of pâté, probably packed in Paris and shipped halfway around the world just to land in this moment of theatrical snackery. He spreads it with a knife, a bit unevenly, and bites again, satisfied now, and across the street, under a low bamboo awning, two Vietnamese teenagers watch him. One nudges the other. They whisper, laugh, imitate his mustache. But they're watching something else too. The bread, the tin, the gesture. You sit beside them, knees hugged close. You hear them wonder aloud. What's so special about that meat? Why does he always carry it? They're not mocking. They're curious. And here's the part the textbooks often forget. Colonialism isn't just power and politics. It's food envy, ingredient exposure, flavor confusion. That boy, the one with the sharper eyes, he starts helping at a French restaurant, washing dishes, peeling onions, slowly working his way up the invisible ladder until one day the cook lets him taste the leftovers. That's how it starts. Not with theft, with permission, with taste. He remembers the pâté from across the street. Now he's holding it, smelling it. He asks questions, learns words, grasps ratios, liver to fat, garlic to salt. And when no one's watching, he experiments. In a corner of the kitchen, over a low fire, he roasts his own liver cuts, mashes them with shallots, stirs slowly with a wooden spoon that's older than him. It doesn't look like French pâté, doesn't smell the same, but it's close. Better, maybe. The head chef tries it, sneers, calls it too aggressive, says it lacks finesse, but eats the whole bowl anyway. Soon the boy leaves, finds work elsewhere, opens a small stall near the train station, serves sandwiches, unofficially of course. The French haven't decided if he's allowed to feed people their food yet. His baguettes are slightly shorter. He bakes them in charcoal ovens that burn too hot. The crust cracks, the inside steams. He slices them open and fills them with his own pâté. Not from a tin, not from France. From here. People start coming. Not many, but enough. Enough to whisper. Enough to say, have you tried the one with the meat paste? Most of them don't even know the word pâté. They call it pâté in that gentle Vietnamese twist that makes everything sound like a nickname. And slowly, it spreads. The colonial officers never notice, or if they do, they pretend not to. After all, it's just bread and liver. What harm could it do? You step back now. Let the boys walk ahead. Let the cook scrape his pan clean. You pass a faded poster on a crumbling wall, all in French. Something about a governor or maybe tea exports, but all you can think about is that moment. A boy watching a man open a tin, then learning to recreate it without asking again. That's how it begins. Not with fire, but with flavor. It's hot again. The kind of heat that clings to your clothes like guilt. You feel it settle in your armpits, the back of your neck, the folds of your elbows. And there's no escape except maybe shade and iced tea. Or better yet, food. You're in a narrow alley in Hanoi's old town, 1920. There's no breeze. Just smoke from grilled pork, the murmur of street vendors, and somewhere in the middle of it all, the unmistakable scent of pâté frying on a pan that should have been replaced 10 years ago. You follow your nose. There she is. A woman, maybe 50, maybe 90, standing behind a cart that looks like it was built from leftover furniture. She's slicing a baguette with the precision, and next to her, a small metal pan sizzles with spoonfuls of homemade pâté, browning at the edges. You didn't know pâté could be fried. You're not sure it should be, but the smell is persuasive. The man walks up, doesn't say a word. She hands him a sandwich. He hands her 2 coins. Transaction complete. You watch the next one. She slices the bread, not lengthwise, but opens a wedge near the top like a hungry mouth. She spreads the fried pâté inside, adds a few strands of pickled green papaya, some herbs, closes it carefully. You get in line, and while you wait, you notice the people around you. Laborers, students, cyclo drivers, nobody fancy. No colonial uniforms in sight. This is different. This is Vietnamese. You finally get your sandwich. Take a bite. It's not refined. It's not subtle. It's alive. The pâté is crisp on the outside, warm inside, almost smoky. It sticks to the bread like it belongs there. The pickled papaya cuts through with a crunch. And the bread, oh, the bread is slightly steamed from the humidity, but still offers that satisfying kirk when you squeeze. You eat standing up, elbow deep in flavor. Someone bumps into you and says sorry with their eyes. You nod back, your mouth too full to speak. And that's when it hits you. The French never meant for this to happen. Pâté wasn't designed for the streets. It wasn't made to be fried, stuffed, or eaten with hands covered in fish sauce and sweat. It was meant to be civilized, seated, silverware. But here, under this crooked canopy, it's been reinvented. Not out of rebellion, but resourcefulness. That woman, she never learned to make pâté from a recipe. She tasted it once, years ago, when she worked as a kitchen maid in a colonial household. She remembered the salt, the fat, the strange smoothness, and then she made her own. Only hers had garlic, more pepper, less pretense. Some say this was the moment pâté stopped being borrowed and became Vietnamese, not because it was approved or permitted, but because it was repeated, copied, evolved, perfected through use. You ask the woman where she learned to fry it like that. She shrugs. It tastes better that way, she says, then adds, and it's easier to chew for old teeth. Fair enough. You finish the sandwich. Wipe your fingers on a napkin made from old newspaper. Glance around. There's a boy nearby, maybe 10 years old, staring at your now empty wrapper. You hand him the last bite. He devours it in one chomp, then runs off without a word. You're not sure why, but it feels like something important just happened. Maybe this is how recipes travel, from tin cans to kitchens, from whispers to hands, from mouth to memory, one bite at a time. The sun is lower now, brushing gold along the tiled rooftops, painting long shadows across the cracked pavement. You're in Saigon, not officially, not quite yet, but the air has changed. It's thicker, busier, more impatient. The bicycles move faster, the voices are louder, and the food, somehow, seems to sizzle with ambition. You find yourself near a narrow market street, lined with old wooden stalls and uneven concrete. There's a rickety food cart tucked under a hanging tarpaulin, and it's surrounded by something unexpected. People waiting. Not politely, not in a line. This is not France, but in that chaotic, elbow-leaning, half-shouting way that only happens when something is very, very good. You squeeze in. The vendor is young, maybe 30, maybe younger if he ever slept. His hands move fast, slicing, smearing, stuffing, wrapping. And there it is again. That same familiar movement. A loaf of bread cracked open just enough, filled with a thick scoop of pâté. But this time, he doesn't stop there. He adds thin slices of cold pork belly, pickled daikon, carrot, cucumber, cilantro, chili, a squeeze of soy sauce, a dash of Maggi. Then, and only then, a final swipe of pâté across the top like punctuation. It's chaotic, overloaded, almost rude in how much it demands your attention. You take a bite, the bread explodes in your mouth, crust first, then the warm inside. Then the pâté softening it like a velvet curtain drawn over a shouting match. This is not the elegant smear of the colonial dining table. This is loud pâté. Street pâté, immigrant pâté. You chew and breathe and almost laugh. This sandwich isn't following rules, it's breaking them, stuffing them back inside itself and serving them with pickles. You glance around, no one is sitting. Everyone is eating on the move, walking, talking, dodging bicycles. A woman on a stool next to you eats hers with one hand while counting coins with the other. A child clutches half a roll like it's the last snack on earth. This isn't fancy, this is survival. And yet, it's kind of brilliant. You learn the vendor used to be a delivery boy for a French bakery. He hated it, said the bread was too big, too dry, too serious. He started taking home the rejects, stale unsold loaves, practiced heating them over charcoal, figured out how to make them soft again. Then he started slicing them, filling them, selling them, one day at a time. Someone tried to copy him. Another cart opened up 2 alleys over, then another, and suddenly there was a quiet war. Not with weapons, with fillings. Who had the best meat? Crispiest bread, the most addictive pâté. Each vendor had their trick. One fried the pâté with shallots, one added 5 spice, one swore by duck liver only. The people, they chose sides, became loyalists, argued over sandwiches like they were debating politics. Some historians still claim the very first true banh mi was born right here, in a side street in Saigon where someone tired of eating like the colonizers decided to make the sandwich talk back. The French weren't thrilled. You hear stories whispered, never written, about regulations, about bans, about how certain street carts disappeared for selling food that looked a little too familiar. But the banh mi couldn't be stopped, not anymore. You take another bite. This time the pâté's flavor cuts through everything else. Salty, umami with a sharp edge of liver that dares you to keep chewing. It's unapologetic, so are you. You finish the sandwich, wipe your mouth. Behind you, someone orders 2. They don't call it a baguette with meat paste. They call it what it is. Cho toi một bánh mì pâté. And the cart doesn't blink. The hands keep working. The rhythm continues. The name has arrived. It's morning again, but a different kind of morning. The sun rises fast here in Saigon, not gently, not politely, but like someone turned on a giant overhead light and said, "All right, let's go." You hear the city before you see it, the clatter of chopsticks, the beep of bicycle horns, someone yelling about soy sauce prices, and underneath it all, the steady, soft thump of bread being sliced. You're in Cho Binh Tan now, the belly of the city. The market pulses with heat and history. Stalls overflow with fabric, dried fish, plastic toys, dreams, dead. But you're not here for any of that. You're following the smell. There's a woman selling sandwiches from a cart wedged between 2 buckets of flowers, and a man who's aggressively juicing sugarcane. Her hair is pinned up with a plastic clip shaped like a butterfly. She moves with the precision of someone who's done this before sunrise every day for the last 20 years. You watch. She splits the baguette, warm, golden, smaller than the French ones. Inside goes a thick swipe of pâté, then a slice of Vietnamese ham, pickled carrot, daikon, fresh cilantro, a single slice of green chili, because she says no con que di con tin noido. If it's not spicy, you're not really awake. Then comes a twist, a touch of mayonnaise. Wait, what? She catches your expression, shrugs. Miss Saigon tich bail, she says. Saigonese people love richness. You take the sandwich, it's still warm. The bread has that shattered crust that collapses gently under your fingers. The smell alone could start a movement. You bite. It's ridiculous. The pâté is earthy and lush. The mayo sneaks up behind it, whispering something soft and sinful. The pickles punch through like bright little alarms. The bread holds it all like a proud stage. You close your eyes for a second. You're in traffic. You're sweating. You might be late for something. But for this moment, you are perfectly where you need to be. Around you, people are buying sandwiches like currency. One for breakfast, one for lunch, one to bring home. There's no ceremony, no menu, just a rhythm. Spread, stack, wrap, exchange. The vendor's daughter appears, maybe 11 years old, missing a front tooth. She's got a tiny notepad and is yelling out orders like she's running a 5-star hotel. She calls pâté pâté, draws the accent on the té like she's making fun of the French without even realizing it. You ask her how long her family's been selling here. She shrugs. Before I was born, she says, before my mom was born too, I think. There's something in her tone. Not pride, exactly. Something steadier. Ownership. This isn't a borrowed recipe anymore. It's a birthright. Some historians debate whether Chau Ban Thien was truly a center for Banh Mi innovation. Others point to smaller markets, roadside stands, even prison kitchens. But one thing's clear here in this concrete maze. The Banh Mi found its audience. Its fans. Its believers. Net Pate. No longer the star, but never forgotten. It's the first layer. The foundation. The flavor that made bread more than just bread. You finish the sandwich, your fingers are greasy. You don't mind. You lean against the middle pole and watch as another loaf is sliced. Another life resumed. And you think, not for the first time, how something that began in a tin can across the world has now become part of someone's childhood, someone's morning routine, someone's memory years from now of standing in this exact spot with a warm sandwich in hand and not a single care but the next bite. It's still early, but Saigon doesn't wait. The streets are awake now, scooters humming, vendors shouting, someone dragging a crate of something you really hope isn't alive. The city smells like fuel and ambition, with just enough fresh cilantro in the air to keep things civil. You walk toward a small side alley near Tan Dinh Market. The buildings here lean slightly, like they've given up on posture, and the wires overhead tangle like spaghetti on a nervous first date. There's a line, short, determined, in front of a faded food cart, tucked beneath a half-broken awning. This cart doesn't look like much, peeling paint, one wheel smaller than the other. A handwritten sign that just says Banh Mi Thie plus Pate, Tudom. No branding, no Instagram, no attempt to charm you. And yet, you smell it. Warm bread, fat, pepper, vinegar, meat. And beneath it all, the distinct low hum of pâté like background music for your nose. The vendor is middle-aged, half listening to a radio that's softly playing a Kai Lung song. His hands move like he's assembling memories, not sandwiches. You order one without thinking. It's reflex now. The cart has no glass case. Everything's laid out in metal trays covered with cloth. He lifts the lids, one by one, revealing cool cuts of pork, pickled vegetables, sliced cucumbers, herbs, and a deep brown tub of house-made pâté that looks aggressively delicious. He doesn't skimp. The pâté goes down first, a thick layer across the inside of the bread, pressed with the back of the spoon. Then come the layers. Chalua, vit ngoy, do chua, rau thum, a dab of soy sauce, a flick of chili oil. And then, a final touch. He brushes the outside of the bread with a bit of the pâté, as if to say, why stop on the inside? It makes no sense. It's completely unnecessary. It's brilliant. You bite in. It's louder than you expected. The bread gives way with a snap. The pâté, warm from residual heat, coats the mouth with rich, porky defiance. The pickles follow like a sudden opinion. The herbs try to keep it civil. They mostly fail. It's a mess, but an organized one. The man behind you is already unwrapping his. He grumbles about the lack of butter today, but still eats half in one bite. The woman beside him asks the vendor if he'll start adding sardines like the stall 2 blocks away. The vendor just grunts. He doesn't believe in sardines or change. You ask how long he's been doing this. He says since he was still on a bicycle. You realize, for some Banh Mi isn't a trend. It's time. He tells you without looking up that he used to use pâté from a can years ago, back when French tins were easier to find than local livers. Vietnamese lamblon, he says, gathered rehan lon. Now he makes it himself, cheaper than the can. That's the irony. The original pâté came here in metal boxes wrapped in colonial pride. Now it's reborn in backyard kitchens and battered pots on carts that wobble. It's better now, less polite, more honest. Some say the Banh Mi of this era, the 1950s, the post-World War, pre-boom years, was its purest form. Before the diaspora, before branding, before baguettes got hashtags. It wasn't about invention anymore, it was habit. You didn't discover Banh Mi, you just grew up with it, like mosquito bites and laundry on bamboo poles. You finish your sandwich on the curb, wiping your hands on the brown paper it came in. Someone walks by, looks at your empty wrapper and says, "Hey, Droiha, already finished?" You nod back. Nothing more to say. Everyone understands what just happened. A Another morning, another banh mi, another perfect moment hidden in a layer of pâté. You wander through the misty edge of early afternoon, somewhere near Cholun. The air is thick with humidity and slow conversation. Saigon's Chinese Quarter always feels slightly out of sync, like a radio station playing a song you almost recognize but in another key. Here, the smells shift again. 5-spice, star anise, soy, and sugar caramelizing in cast iron pans. But in the middle of it all, your nose finds something familiar. Savory, fatty, quiet, like a memory whispered through steam. You follow it to a narrow storefront, no sign. Just the sliding iron gate pushed halfway open and a few folding stools out front. Inside, an old man wearing flip-flops and an undershirt is smearing something onto bread. You already know what it is. You sit without being asked. No one speaks at first. He hands you a sandwich wrapped in newspaper. It's warm, denser than the ones you've had before. You peel the paper back and see it. Pâté, a darker, almost burgundy, streaked with black pepper and something glossier. You bite. It's different, richer, heavier. Like someone took regular pâté and whispered dark secrets into it. There's a sweetness too. Not sugary, but like burnt onions. And you taste soy. Maybe poison, a tiny hint of clove. You ask, the old man grins without showing teeth. God, he says. Fish. Wait, fish. He explains, slowly, like he's telling you a bedtime story, how once during wartime end pork was expensive, liver even more so. So his family started making pâté with fish livers, catfish, mackerel, even sardines. Mix it with enough garlic, oil, soy, sugar, and shallots. And no one noticed, or maybe no one cared. Because it still worked, still spreadable, still bold. Still warm the bread from the inside. He says it quietly. Pâté tanding kong dung fap. Tanding pâté is not like the French kind. You nod. You agree. He points to a battered radio in the corner. It's playing some old Kailung tune about love and rain and losing your sandals in a flood. The lyrics fade in and out as he slices another loaf, spreads the fish pâté in careful strokes, then layers in pickled shallots, fried garlic, and a few sprigs of Vietnamese coriander, rau rum, sharp and peppery. You realize then that you're not just tasting adaptation, you're tasting defiance. This isn't just someone replacing liver with fish. This is a sandwich, staring down tradition and saying, I'll do it my way. And people came, not in crowds, just enough to keep the place open. Regulars, loyalists, people who say they can't eat any other pâté now. Too bland, too safe. They want this version, the one that bites back. Some historians scoff at this kind of innovation. They say it muddies the recipe, that the real pâté should stick to pork, that banh mi should have rules. But those people have never been here, in this chair with this man, this heat, and this sandwich. You finish it slowly. The aftertaste lingers like a song played one key too low. As you leave, the old man waves with the back of his hand. You ask his name. He doesn't give it, just says, Mai Kwai Lai Di. Michael Pate Ga could come back tomorrow. I'll have chicken pâté. You walk away, chewing the last bit in silence. Sometimes the best flavors aren't made in confidence. They're made in scarcity and pride. And fish. Lots of fish. It's late afternoon now, that soft, heavy part of the day when the shadows stretch long and even the stray dogs stop pretending they care. The alleyways are quieter. The streets breathe out. You walk through layers of sunlight and charcoal smoke, past a group of kids flipping bottle caps, past a grandmother washing herbs in a red plastic basin. And then, just when you think you've eaten every version of pâté that exists, you hear music. Not from a speaker, not from a stage, but from a walk. Seo, seo, seo. You follow the sound. A food cart, halfway hidden behind a curtain of steam, emerges in view. The vendor is younger than most, maybe late 20s, with dyed blonde hair and earbuds in like he's tuning out the world. His cart is covered in stickers, cartoon pigs, lucky cats, and a fading decal that says, no pâté, no life. You raise an eyebrow. He raises one back, then points to the menu, or rather, a piece of cardboard with just one line in black marker. Banh mi pâté ga noon gate foot, 3 no. Grilled chicken pâté banh mi, art edition. Okay, sure, why not? He gets to work, not rushed, not careless. Each motion is weirdly graceful, like he's performing for someone only he can see. First, he grabs a crusty roll, not quite baguette, not quite banh mi, and toasts it over open flame. Then he opens a small clay pot and pulls out something golden, soft, and somehow glowing with pride. Pâté. But this one is different. Chicken liver, infused with shallots, honey, turmeric, and wait, is that lemongrass? He spreads it with a wooden spoon like he's icing a cake, then adds a slice of grilled chicken thigh marinated so long it probably has emotions, a bit of pickled mango, a few shavings of green chili, crushed peanuts, and finally a squeeze of calamansi. You blink, that's not a sandwich, that's a novel. He wraps it quickly and hands it to you without a word. You unwrap it without thinking. First bite. Boom. Your mouth goes quiet. The pâté is smooth, lighter than pork, almost floral from the turmeric. The chicken is smoky, rich. The mango hits like a plot twist, sharp, then sweet. And the peanuts, a crunch that shouldn't work, but somehow does. You look up, he's watching you, smirking like a magician who just pulled something unexpected from your sleeve. You ask, where did you learn to make pâté like this? He shrugs. Tuche, made it up. Turns out his grandmother used to make chicken liver paste during the lean years. No pork, no duck, nothing fancy, just chicken liver, onions, salt, and elbow grease. He took her base recipe and remixed it, the way DJs remix old love songs into something that makes teenagers cry for no reason. Some people call it sacrilege, others call it genius. He calls it dinner. You sit nearby, munching slowly, absorbing the chaos of flavors like sunlight through skin. He tells you he used to study painting, got bored, started cooking, found that pâté was like pigment, soft, mixable, full of emotion. Moi lai pate kutam trang ring, he says. Every pâté has its own mood. You nod, not just to agree, but because it actually makes sense. Historians would probably hate this part of the story. Too modern, too weird, not enough rules. But food doesn't wait for approval. It evolves. And sometimes it evolves through an art school dropout with a blowtorch and a clay pot full of golden liver paste. You finish the sandwich, fingertips sticky with sauce and pride. The vendor's already working on the next one, music blasting from one earbud. Before you leave, he calls out, "My pâté vitra zain, tu kong." Tomorrow I've got a green tea pâté. You in? You don't answer, but you know you'll be back. Night in Saigon doesn't fall. It spills. Like a bowl of warm broth tipped slowly over the city, seeping into every alley and crevice. The air thickens. Neon signs buzz to life. Cicadas chirp like gossip. And the streets start breathing a different rhythm, one that smells like grilled meat, petrol, and stories half forgotten. You're wandering near a row of street stalls, not far from a rundown cinema showing old martial arts films. Somewhere in the static of a nearby speaker, a Kailung ballad leaks out and mixes with the sizzle of hot oil. A small group of men, construction workers by the look of their hands, are gathered around a cart, their sandals dusty, their shirts stained, their eyes fixed on a single sandwich being built like it's a national event. You get closer. There's laughter. Loud, guttural. Someone's already drunk. Someone else is lighting a cigarette with the stub of the previous one. And then, cutting through the smoke, a voice, deep, raspy, calls out, "Cho tao o banh mi, neo paid vo, kailin, cho tin, give me a banh mi, extra pâté, and make it spicy. I need to wake up." You see him now, mid-40s, face like a brick wall after a bad storm, smelling vaguely of rice wine and regret. His name no one says, but the vendor calls him An Chi, and everyone knows not to argue with An Chi. The vendor grins. He slices open a slightly burnt loaf, intentionally burnt because Chi likes it that way, then begins building it, and violent pâté that nearly breaks the bread, then strips of pork, pickled daikon so sour it could resurrect the dead, slices of chili so red they seem radioactive, and then more pâté because, of course, he hands the sandwich over like a loaded weapon. Chi takes it, bites, and silence falls for a second. Then, Doug, just okay. Everyone laughs, they all take it as high praise. You buy one, two, same build, out of curiosity, out of peer pressure, out of respect. And the first bite, it's an uppercut. That pâté, it's not the gentle, creamy kind. It's rustic, mashed by hand, cooked with too much garlic and maybe anger. It coats your mouth like a fight you didn't start but now have to finish. The chili hits next, unforgiving. The pickles try to calm things down but only make it louder. The bread, charred and proud. You're sweating before the second bite. She eyes you. Kong kei ha. Not spicy. You nod, carefully, because your tongue has gone numb and your pride is the only thing still functioning. He laughs. Looked out on chung tu, but out can go pate. Yim kong on you vaido. Back when I was in prison, we had pâté every day. But it wasn't like this. Someone asks if he's serious. She just shrugs. Starts humming an old love song. And there it is again, the strange poetry of it. Pâté was prison food, fancy food, street food, comfort food. It's been all of it. For people like Chi, it was survival. For the French, it was luxury. For today's vendor, it's just a topping. And yet, it binds them all. You eat the rest in silence, tongue burning, mouth full of questions. Around you, the men begin to disperse. Some heading home, some probably not. The night deepens, and the smell of grilled fat gives way to laundry soap and cooling concrete. You thank the vendor. He nods, already slicing the next loaf for the next customer with the next story. And as you walk away full and a little dizzy, you realize that sandwich was a memory, a protest, a punchline, a poem, and above all, absolutely worth the heat. The night softens as you wander toward Chalon again, but this time you're following sound, not smell, the gentle lang-kang of a small brass bell. It's not the kind of bell that asks for attention. It's the kind that reminds you something still exists. You turn a corner and there it is. The first Banh Mi cart with a wheel missing and a soul older than most of the buildings around it. It's pushed by a man who's part shadow now, thin, wiry, in a faded long-sleeve shirt and a Mukoi helmet with a dent near the top like it once stopped something sharp. His name is Ong Tu. No one calls him anything else. He doesn't yell, doesn't wave signs, just walks slowly, always ringing that soft bell like a lullaby. He parks in front of a closed pharmacy. Same spot every night, same hour. You sit on the curb, watch, wait, no lights, no menu, just memory. He opens a wooden drawer built into the cart and pulls out a small tin. Dented, nearly square, wrapped in a towel, unwraps it, opens it. Pâté, pâté. It smells different, not aggressive, not fancy. It smells like the back room of your grandma's house. Warm, soft, full of secrets you didn't know you missed. Someone walks up, they don't even speak, just nods. Ong Tu slices open a roll that's thinner than most, slightly softer, almost cake-like. He spreads the pâté just a little, adds one slice of Chinese sausage, a few sprigs of cilantro, and a smear of dark soy sauce. That's it. No pickles, no chili, no flair. He wraps it in wax paper, folds the edges in a way that makes you feel like he's sealing a letter, not a sandwich. You order one too. He hands it over without a word. First bite, silence. Then, you notice something. The pâté has a touch of cinnamon, a whisper of clove. Sweet, but not sugary, like a lullaby written in meat. You chew slower than usual. Something about this demands it. You ask him how long he's been doing this. He says, "Look tao kong yata se ben mich ong noi." When I was a boy, I pushed the Banh Mi cart for my grandfather. You blink. That's at least 3 generations of sandwiches in his blood. He tells you their family always made their own pâté. Not from pork, from duck. Steamed, not baked. Spiced, not salted. Never written down, always remembered. No I'm welcome to he adds. No one would buy this recipe. You believe him. Not because it isn't good, it's incredible, but because it's not for sale, it's history. Portable, edible, modest. He's not chasing trends, he's not here for praise. He's just moving one sandwich at a time through a city that changes faster than anyone can slice bread. Some say the Banh Mi cart was born in Saigon. Others argue it came from Hanoi, but carts like Ong Tu's, quiet, persistent, almost invisible, they're the reason it stayed. You finish the sandwich, wipe your hands, he's already walking again, slowly the bell ringing behind him. Lang Kang, that's not advertising, it's memory maintenance. And in that moment you understand, some people cook to impress, some cook to survive. Ong Tu cooks to remember. And thanks to that bell, so will you. The next morning starts not with sunlight, but with static. The soft hiss of a radio tuning through half-caught voices, music fragments and government announcements read in the same tone you imagine they use to describe wallpaper. It's 1955. Saigon is stirring. You sit on a bench across from an old wooden building with chipped blue shutters. Inside, behind one of those shutters, someone's frying garlic in oil. The smell rises, curls through the alley, then hooks your attention like a fish. You follow it not out of hunger, though that's always there, but out of curiosity. And then you hear it. A voice, clear, proud, too loud for the alley. It crackles through a nearby radio. Hoi dong bao. Den Quen an Banh Mi Pate Moi Sang De Kwe De Min Man. England Book Say Ding Dut Nook. Citizens, don't forget to eat Banh Mi Pate each morning for health, for clarity, for building the nation. Wait. What? You glance over and see the source. A cafe no bigger than a living room. It's its walls decorated with framed photos of singers, generals, and French footballers no one remembers. A small loudspeaker sits on the counter. Next to it, a handwritten menu offering Café Soda, Tringad Angdung, and there it is, Banh Mi Pate Tring Chien. You step inside. It's cooler than outside, thanks to a rusted fan swinging slowly above your head like it's unsure of its purpose. The owner waves you in. He's got slick back hair, gold rings on both thumbs, and a laugh that sounds like a scooter backfiring. He slaps together a sandwich in under 30 seconds. Bread toasted over open flame, pâté spread thick as paint. A fried egg, runny, jiggling, almost indecent slammed on top. A quick dusting of black pepper, no pickles, no vegetables, just pure fatty intention. You take a bite, the yolk bursts. The pâté melts, your brain still catching up. Briefly forgets your name. It's luxurious, and it doesn't apologize for it. The owner explains through mouthfuls of his own sandwich that after the French left, people didn't want to let go of certain things. Sure, they ditched the accent marks and the bad wine, but the pâté, that stayed. Only now it spoke Vietnamese. Eggs were added because protein meant power. Butter stayed, but only if you could afford it. And the idea of eating pâté for strength. That was broadcast on the radio, literally. Saigon thought Autung on pâté la Hindai, he says. Back then, Saigon thought pâté meant being modern. Some folks mocked it, called it unsung food. Too rich, too French, too much. Others embraced it like a badge. I eat pâté because I can. You hear another radio message drifted from a different window. Banh Mi kept pâté, yen gok bo duong. Pâté filled banh mi, fast, neat, nutritious. You laugh out loud. Because here you are, holding a sandwich that drips egg yolk onto your wrist while someone insists it's neat. But they meant something else. They meant it fit in your hand, that it didn't need a plate or a table, that it moved when you moved, that it matched the city's new rhythm. Faster, louder, always hungry for something more. Some historians say 1955 marked the beginning of Banh Mi's media moment. The radio made it mainstream. Ads called it a revolution in breakfast. Vendors leaned into it, shouting slogans while flipping eggs and slicing bread. You finish your sandwich slowly. The fan clicks every time it turns back toward you. The cafe owner pours you a tiny glass of tea. Quan tui la do tien, quan cao pate trendaido, he says with a wink. Mine was the first shop to advertise pâté on the radio. Is he lying? Probably. Does it matter? Not at all. Because here, in this room, it's true. In this bite, this moment, this story, he's a pioneer, a sandwich broadcaster, the prophet of pâté. You thank him. Step outside. The radio crackles again. And don't forget, a Banh Mi each morning is the beginning of victory. You walk away smiling, full and only slightly greasy. Victory apparently tastes like pâté and runny egg on charcoal bread. It's the 1960s now. The air feels different, more electric, more uncertain. Saigon is growing fast, but not evenly. Some parts sparkle with new money, neon lights, and imported cars. Others crumble quietly under the weight of war and whispers. You walk along a street that straddles both worlds. The buildings here have balconies like teeth, uneven, chipped but still holding on. There's jazz floating out of one window, and a woman ironing Aodai on a rooftop like it's just another Thursday. Down below, in the chaos of scooter horns and radio static, something else catches your attention. A smell. You follow it. Past a tailor shop, past a dog sleeping under a parked Vespa, past a man selling French newspapers no one reads anymore. And there it is. A suitcase. Not just any suitcase. This one's been repurposed, turned sideways, propped open, and transformed into the tiniest, strangest banh mi stand you've ever seen. Inside, a single jar of pâté, a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth, a plastic bag of sliced pickles, and a slab of cold cuts sweating in the heat. There's a can of condensed milk next to it for some reason, probably part of a completely different hustle. Behind the suitcase sits a woman. She can't be more than 20, with sharp eyes and a bun so tight it looks like it's holding her past together. She doesn't smile. She nods. You nod. Back. Transaction made. She opens the loaf. It's smaller than usual, almost personal-sized. She smears a thin layer of pâté with a spoon that's seen too many years. Adds a few thin ribbons of meat, some carrots, some daikon, a sprig of raw rum. No chili, no sauce, no extras. You take a bite. It's quiet. That's the only word that fits. Not bland, not dull, just quiet. Like it knows there's enough noise outside already. Pâté is soft, almost whipped with a faint sweetness. You ask if it's homemade. She shakes her head. Mom, go to Hanoi. My mom sends it from Hanoi. Ah, northern pâté, lighter, less garlic, more liver, less fat. You chew thoughtfully. The bread's a little tough, but the kind of tough that forgives you once it warms in your mouth. You ask her why a suitcase. She glances down at it like it's obvious. They chai chunyen, so I can run quickly. Run quickly, of course. Saigon in the 60s is a city of pop-up. Nothing is fixed. You sleep where you can, sell what you have, and carry your business like a shell. A suitcase isn't just portable, it's escape ready. She tells you her brother tried to open a shop once, got shut down, no permit, too much attention. But here on the curb she feeds 20 people a morning and disappears by noon. Some say this era was when Banh Mi went underground, not literally but emotionally. Less pride, more practicality. Less invention, more repetition. You finish your sandwich. She's already serving someone else. A schoolboy in uniform, balancing a bicycle with one hand and a tin lunchbox with the other. He pays, takes the banh mi, and rides off without looking back. That's how it goes here. Fast, quiet, full. You leave a few extra coins on the edge of her suitcase. She doesn't stop you. You walk away, your breath still carrying the aftertaste of liver and something softer, something homesick. And somewhere above, on a balcony with peeling paint, someone starts humming an old love song that smells faintly like pâté. You're not in Saigon anymore, not really. It's 1975, or maybe just after. The maps are redrawn. The air is different, heavier, but quieter. Saigon has a new name. The posters have new faces, the radios have new voices. But in some small kitchen, far from the noise, a woman stands over a stove, stirring a pot, like the world hasn't changed at all. You're in California now, or Texas, or maybe just outside Paris. Honestly, you're not sure anymore, because the smell is unmistakably Viet. You're standing in a garage-turned kitchen, surrounded by boxes labeled in fading marker. Winter clothes, books, hop-dome nail, sardines, not pâté. On a table covered in a checkered plastic cloth, someone is pressing baguettes into a toaster oven that was not designed to work this hard. And beside it, on a dented stovetop, a pan of pâté gras, chicken liver pâté, the kind that smells like memory and makes the whole garage feel like a street corner in Quint 5. You blink. The woman stirring it, maybe 35, maybe 45, it's hard to tell, is humming while she works. Not a song from here, a northern lullaby. The kind that sounds like it's always about to break your heart but never quite does. She notices you, smiles. Ngồi chai đi, có bánh mì nè. Sit. There's bánh mì. You sit. Because how could you not? She slices the bread. Not quite right, too thick, crust wrong. But still, it's trying. She slathers the pâté in one thick, unapologetic stroke. Then adds roast pork that smells like soy and star anise, homemade pickles, 2 sprigs of cilantro, and a dab of mayonnaise from a brand you're not sure you trust. She wraps it in foil, hands it to you. No charge. You take a bite. And in that first moment, even here, far from home, with the wrong bread, the wrong weather, the wrong radio station, something clicks. The pâté is soft. Not perfect. A little too peppery. But it's right. You chew slower. She tells you almost like confession that she used to help her mother make pâté in Dalat, back when butter was rare and liver was cheaper than rice, when they'd cook it down with shallots and steam it in recycled sardine tins because that's what they had. She says when she fled, hurried, scared, exhausted, she didn't bring much. A gold necklace, a photograph, and her mother's recipe folded into the lining of a handbag. That was her inheritance. Now, she makes banh mi on Saturdays. After she's done with nails all week, she doesn't advertise. People just know. They come to the backyard, knock softly, order with a whisper, like it's sacred. And it is. You finish your sandwich sitting on a lawn chair between a stack of paint cans and a plastic flamingo. Above you, strings of Christmas lights flicker, though it's not December. Someone in the house is watching a dubbed TV show from the 1980s. The laugh track doesn't match the tone. She offers you another one to take home. You say yes before she finishes the sentence. Some historians argue that the Vietnamese diaspora is where banh mi became international. That refugees, rebuilding in strange cities, brought more than language. They brought flavor. That pâté, once smuggled in tins, was now reborn in casserole pans, in borrowed kitchens, or in rented backyards. They're not wrong, because here you are in a backyard on the edge of a continent, biting into a sandwich made from liver and longing. And for a moment, you're not in exile. You're home. The world keeps moving. Streets get paved, borders tighten, sandwiches travel. It's the late 1980s now, and you're standing in front of a metal shelf at an American supermarket. There's soft jazz playing overhead. The fluorescent lights make everything look a little sterile, even the food. You reach out and pick up a small can with a vaguely European label. Pork liver spread, product of France. It's pâté, kind of. You hold it for a second, confused, then amused, then sad, because you know this isn't the pâté from Saigon, from Hanoi, from the backyard in California. This is factory pâté, cold, smooth, forgettable. It's trying too hard, and not trying at all. You put it back, because you've heard about something better. There's a Vietnamese grocery store 20 minutes away, wedged between a check cashing place and a laundromat. No sign, no website, just a faded awning and the smell of fish sauce that hits you in the parking lot. Inside it's organized chaos, plastic bins of dried mushrooms, bags of rice bigger than car tires, and there, tucked in a back fridge behind stacks of tofu and pickled mustard greens, pâté in little Tupperware containers, hand-labeled with a Sharpie. No brand, no ingredients list, no nutritional advice, just a name, Pat Nalam. Homemade pâté. You buy one. The woman at the register doesn't make eye contact. She just says, "Du sal moi quand même, oui." Fresh batch comes Friday. You nod like you've always known that. Back home, you take out a slightly too soft supermarket baguette. You toast it gently. Not perfect, but it'll do. You slice it open, spread the pâté. It's darker than you expect, more rustic, more defiant. You smell fish sauce, shallot, a whisper of star anise. Then you bite, and for a split second, you're somewhere else. A street corner, a cart, a bell ringing in the distance. You chew slowly. This isn't nostalgia, it's muscle memory. A taste you didn't know you missed until your tongue found it again. And just when you think the moment's over, it gets stranger. Because someone else enters the room. You're a kid, maybe 7, maybe 10, holding a tablet, speaking half English, half sass. They say, "What's that smell?" You offer a bite, they sniff it, eye it. Reluctantly, they taste. Pause, chew, silence, then, "Can you make me one?" You do. And when they walk away, eating it like it's no big deal, like it didn't just connect 60 years of migration in one snack-sized moment, you laugh quietly and feel something deep. Maybe pride, maybe grief, maybe a little bit of both. Later that night, you sit alone with the rest of the pâté. You don't eat it, you just look at it. Think about how something so simple, liver, garlic, fat, has crossed oceans, dodged wars, outlived regimes. It used to be luxury, then survival, now it's lunch, and somehow that feels holy. You close the container, place it gently in the fridge. There'll be another sandwich tomorrow. There always is. You're in Tokyo now. Yes, Tokyo. Bright lights, clean trains, vending machines that sell everything except peace of mind. You're standing on a narrow street somewhere between Shibuya and memory, watching a small crowd form in front of what looks like a garage painted matte black. Above the door is a hand-lettered sign in Vietnamese and Japanese. Banh Mi Tokyo, not Gekando Tien. Delicious from the first bite. You weren't planning to stop. You were just walking. But the smell, that familiar wave of warm bread, pickled carrot, and livered defiance, hits you like an old friend tapping your shoulder after years apart. You join the line, mostly locals, a few expats. One confused French tourist staring suspiciously at the menu. Inside there's a single chef, young, probably second-gen VidQ. Tattooed, masked, focused like a man building spacecraft, not sandwiches. The workspace is surgical, clean counter, soft jazz, bread stacked like museum pieces. You hear the order before yours. Pâté extra, eat rao hongut. Extra pâté, light on the herbs, no chili. He nods once, grabs a knife, and slices the roll. It's a perfect roll, toasted to the millimeter. Steam rises as it cracks open, revealing an interior so fluffy it might float off the counter. Then comes the pâté. Not from a tin, not from a tub, from a small ceramic crock, handmade. He dips in a spoon, spreads it gently, reverently. It's darker than usual, smells deeper, earthier. You ask about it, he glances up. Gunvit nut, steamed, not baked. I add miso, duck liver, Japanese, steamed, then mixed with miso. You blink. Pâté net Vietnam, you say, Vietnamese, Japanese pâté. He shrugs. Fusion is just what happens when your grandma's food meets your visa. Your sandwich arrives wrapped in crisp white paper like a gift. You take it outside, sit on a low step under a neon sign advertising skincare, and bite. The bread shatters gently. The miso pâté hits your tongue like a memory in a language you almost forgot. It's savory, smooth, umami-rich in a way you didn't know pâté could be. But then, the pickles land. Right, familiar, a jolt of cilantro, a sting of chili. And suddenly, it's banh mi again. Not imitation, not performance. Translation, you finish the sandwich too quickly. Sit for a moment, swallow slowly. You think about how far pâté has traveled. From aristocratic tables in Paris to street corners in Saigon to fusion counters in Tokyo, reinvented over and over by hands that don't ask permission. Some historians say food loses authenticity when it travels, but they've clearly never eaten this sandwich. Because if pâté can speak Vietnamese, Japanese, English, and still taste like home, then maybe it was never about origin. Maybe it was always about intention. You watch someone else bite into theirs. Their eyes widen, and you know for just 1 second they're in Hanoi, or Saigon, or a backyard in San Jose, or somewhere that doesn't exist on any map except the back of their tongue. You stand up, walk back through the neon, past the 7-Eleven, past a woman selling roasted sweet potatoes out of a bicycle basket, and you realize pâté is no longer an ingredient. It's a passport. It's the 2000s now. The internet is waking up. People are starting to post photos of their breakfast. Not just what they eat, but why, where, how aesthetic the plate looks in natural light. And somewhere in Los Angeles, in a small food truck, painted yellow with a stencil of a conical hat and a pun-based name, Faux Real Banh Mi Mystery of Flavor. Banh Mi is about to have its moment. You're standing in a parking lot behind a yoga studio. There's a line. Of course there's a line. Everyone here is holding a cold brew, wearing statement sneakers, and talking about how they discovered banh mi, like, before it was cool. You say nothing. You've been eating banh mi since you had to stand on tiptoe to see over the cart. You are not impressed by kombucha on tap. Still, you wait, because the smell, it's right, and that's when you hear it. Can I get the vegan pâté banh mi, gluten-free roll, no cilantro, sub-avocado? You turn very slowly. The person ordering is dead serious. The vendor, a tattooed guy with a man bun and a Vietnamese flag patch on his apron, doesn't flinch. He nods, types it into an iPad, and gets to work. You don't even get to react before he calls your order next. You step up. He raises an eyebrow. Original, you say. He smiles like he passed a test. You watch him layer the sandwich. The bread is almost right. A little softer than it should be, but warm and crusty. Then comes the pâté, but not from a can, not even from a crock. It comes from a metal squeeze bottle. You squint. He catches your look. House-made, vegan, mushrooms, lentils, tamari, caramelized onion. You tilt your head. You didn't ask for vegan, but you also didn't say no. He adds pickled carrot, daikon, jalapeno, cucumber, fresh herbs, and a few crisp slices of pan-fried tofu. Then a splash of house umami sauce. You bite and you hesitate. This is good, like really good. The bread gives way perfectly. The pâté, though not meat, is creamy, earthy, just enough salt it doesn't try to mimic pork. It builds something new. The pickles are loud, the tofu is smoky, the heat creeps up behind your teeth. You nod, quietly, like admitting to yourself that not all change is betrayal. Still, something in you misses the funk, the fat, the defiance of liver. You ask him, ever make the real stuff? He leans in, lowers his voice like he's confessing a secret. My mom makes it every Sunday. Pork liver, duck fat, garlic for days. He grins, but people don't ask for that out here. They want Instagram flavor. You both laugh. He says food's like language, man. You can't stop slang, but you gotta remember the root. You nod. Take the last bite of your sandwich and feel the echo of something older behind it. Some historians argue that banh mi in the diaspora lost its authenticity in the 2000s. That avocado, sriracha aioli, or even vegan pâté was the beginning of the end. But they're missing the point, because the real pâté never left. It just went underground, into homes, into Sundays, into Tupperware carried quietly to church parking lots and family parties, next to foil-wrapped loaves and knowing nods. The food truck keeps serving, the line gets longer, you walk away, still chewing, and you realize even if pâté gets rebranded, repackaged, or pureed into a health-conscious lifestyle, the soul's still there, somewhere in the aftertaste. In the stories it refuses to let go of. It's not about whether it's traditional, it's about whether it tells the truth. even when it's being polite. You're scrolling now. Yes, scrolling. Because it's 2015 and sandwiches have made their way to Instagram and Banh Mi. Oh, it's no longer just food. It's content. You're on your phone, thumb moving in lazy loops, half awake, half hungry. Swipe, swipe, and there it is, a close-up photo of a banh mi. Glistening golden, sliced open with surgical precision. The pâté smoothed across the inside like a makeup tutorial. Pickles arranged like they were posing for Vogue. A single sprig of cilantro perfectly placed. The caption, brunch goals, banh mi pâté's life, crispy outside, creamy inside. You roll your eyes. But then you pause because the photo is kind of perfect, and you're kind of hungry. You click the location tag, an artisanal sandwich shop downtown, with subway tiles, Edison bulbs, and a menu printed in typewriter font. Of course, so you go, because this is how food lives now, not just in taste, but in tags. The place is beautiful in that aggressively curated way. Plants hanging from the ceiling, a playlist of vinyl-only French Vietnamese lo-fi playing just loud enough to let everyone know you're supposed to be chill. You order the pâté deluxe. It comes on a wooden board, no wrapper, no paper, no plastic stool, just vibes. The server, wearing linen overalls and a fanny pack, ironically explains, this pâté is made from slow-roasted Berkshire pork liver with caramelized shallots, fish sauce aged in pho, and a touch of fermented garlic honey. You blink, then nod like you understand what any of that means. You take a bite, and okay, yeah, it's good. The pâté is smooth, decadent, full of depth and mystery. The bread is more like ciabatta, but it's still got crunch. The pickles are house-fermented, tangy with attitude, and there's a line of bright orange sriracha mayo drawn across the top like graffiti in a culinary gallery. It's not your banh mi, but it's trying. You take a photo. You don't post it. That part's for you. At the next table, a girl in a beanie says, "This is my first banh mi ever. I think I'm obsessed now." You smile, quietly, because even if this moment feels dressed up, even if the liver came from a pig that probably lived a better life than you, it's still something. Still connection, still pâté at the heart of it, doing its work quietly, holding everything together like mortar in a wall of crust, color, and crunch. Some folks say this era made food too pretty, polished, too staged, but maybe pâté was ready for its close-up. After all, it's always been a little misunderstood, a little shadowed, a little humble, and now here it is, front and center, under a filter, next to an oat milk latte, on a plate that costs more than your childhood allowance. You finish the sandwich, walk out into the filtered sunlight, and in your pocket, your phone buzzes. Banh-Mi.Heaven liked your photo. You don't know who they are, but you kind of love them. Back in Vietnam, but not the Vietnam from old stories, from radios and rusted carts. This is today's Vietnam, buzzing, glowing, caffeinated. Ho Chi Minh City is vertical now, sprouting glass towers like bamboo shoots filled with rooftop bars and imported whiskey. And yet, amid all that height and light, you still find yourself in a small tiled shop on a side street near Nguyen Tung Hien. No doorbell, no air conditioning. Sign painted by hand that says, "Banh Mi Pâté Sua, An Lai Myo." Old school pâté banh mi. Taste it, and you'll remember. Inside, a man in his 60s, neat hair, sandals, gold ring too big for his finger, is meticulously folding wax paper around a sandwich like it's a family secret. His hands are calloused, steady. He doesn't look up. You order. He nods, disappears behind the counter. No conversation, just movement. You sit. The stool wobbles. Across the room is a faded photograph. A black and white image of a younger man, maybe him, maybe his father, standing behind a cart with 2 jars, 1 baguette, and a wooden box labeled pâté. You stare at it long enough to notice the smallest detail. A child sitting next to the cart, licking pâté from his thumb. Then your sandwich arrives. It's warm, humble, heavy. You open it, and for a moment you hesitate, because it smells exactly like memory. The pâté is unmistakably old style, rough, rich, full of garlic and maybe a bit of resentment. There's no fusion here, no miso, no tofu, just pork liver, lard, black pepper, and what might be a splash of fish sauce too bold for modern tongues. You bite. It's aggressive, not in heat, but in honesty. The bread is dense. The pickles are sour. The pâté is a punch to the mouth. You chew, swallow, sit back, and smile. Because this isn't food designed to impress, it's food that remembers. The man finally speaks. His voice is low, sandpaper over wood. "Mais fab quoi like made him truc," he says. "The French came back a few years ago." You raise an eyebrow. He nods toward the back wall where another photo is tacked up. A man in a tourist hat grinning, holding a banh mi like it's holy. "Hien song, he says. After he finished, he asked me if I remembered the old flavor. You ask what he told him. I said, "Toidokokwin." I never forgot. He shrugs, keeps folding sandwiches. The rhythm doesn't stop. Some historians say that by the 2020s, banh mi in Vietnam had become too commercial, caught between fast food and nostalgia, chain shops, branded boxes, influencer-approved rolls. But those historians haven't been near here, haven't tasted this pâté, haven't heard a man say, "Toidokokwin." You finish the sandwich, lick your finger where a streak of pâté escaped, and as you stand, he calls out one last thing, "Michael Ganvidda, Mui Suhana." Tomorrow I've got duck liver, even more old school. You grin, because you'll be back, because some flavors don't fade, they just wait. It's a Thursday night in a trendy district of Saigon, the kind with rooftop bars that serve cocktails and light bulbs, and restaurants that describe Ban Trang Tron as Vietnamese deconstructed rice paper salad. The streets glisten from a recent rain, and the humidity presses gently against your neck like a persistent thought. You're heading to dinner, real dinner, when you pass a crowd gathered outside a restaurant, glowing with gold signage. People are holding phones, snapping photos, murmuring in English, Korean, and the occasional dramatic, "Wow, wow." And then you see it, on the signboard, in looping script next to a Michelin star logo. "Foie gras banh mi, limited serving." You stop walking, your stomach rolls its eyes, your curiosity doesn't care. You go in. Inside, it's air-conditioned silence and champagne flutes. A waiter in a crisp vest guides you to a seat like you've made a reservation. You haven't, but your face says, "Yes, I belong here." And sometimes that's enough. The menu is a single card, one item, no substitutions. Foie gras banh mi, crispy rice flour baguette, duck liver pâté, tamarind glaze, purple perilla, pickled fig. It arrives on a black slate, sliced at an angle like it just finished a photo shoot. You stare at it. It stares back. You pick it up, carefully. Too carefully. Banh mi shouldn't require choreography, but this one might sue you for gripping it wrong. You bite, and the foie gras, buttery, bold, unapologetically French, hits first. It's silk, it's wealth, it's your cholesterol calling its lawyer. But then the tamarind kicks in, bright and tangy, dragging the richness into something playful. The fig crunches, the perilla adds a minty echo. The bread, perfectly brittle, then pillowy. You chew, slowly, like you're legally required to. It's good, it's great, but something in you winces, just a little, because it's not the flavor, it's the feeling. You're paying more for this one banh mi than your aunt back in Da Nang makes in a day, and she still wakes up at 4 a.m. to steam liver and bake bread in a back alley oven. You finish the sandwich. It ends fast, too fast, like luxury always does. Some people say this is the future of banh mi, elevated, refined, plated with tweezers and intentions, a seat at the fine dining table at last. Others call it betrayal, but maybe it's just inevitable. Pâté was born in palaces, remember? It was always fancy food pretending to be humble. It just took 100 years, a couple wars, and some duck livers flown in from France to come full circle. You walk out a little lighter in wallet and heavier in thought. Outside, a teenager rolls by on a motorbike, holding a banh mi, wrapped in paper, tearing into it like it owes him money. He's not posting it. He's not thinking about foie gras or pickled fig. Then it hits you. Banh mi can't be plated, priced, praised. But it still belongs to the people who eat it at red lights with one hand. You smile. You're still full. And tomorrow you know exactly where you'll get your next one. No slate, no star, no sauce you can't pronounce. Just liver, bread, and bite, as it always was. You're in your living room now. Lights dim. Netflix humming quietly in the background. The screen glows with the usual formula, soft focus, sad music, and someone walking away from someone else in the rain. But then, it happens. You sit up, rewind 10 seconds. There, in the character's hand, in a moment far too emotionally waiting for food, is a banh mi. Not just any banh mi. The perfect one. Wrapped in wax paper, half-eaten, pâté clearly visible on the inside, like a supporting actor waiting for their big line. You chuckle, because now even drama knows about banh mi. Even streaming content can't resist the quiet charisma of liver paste and a baguette. The character, a woman in a trench coat, probably named Lynn or Mai, is crying. She takes a bite between sobs. The camera lingers. The music swells, and there it is. The emotional sandwich moment. You've seen it before. In Western rom-coms, it's always ice cream. In prestige dramas, a whiskey glass. But here, finally, it's banh mi. And pâté, it's doing the emotional heavy lifting. You pause the episode, you can't help it. You open a delivery app, scroll through a list of options. Half of them are fusion spots with phrases like crispy pork belly confit or activated charcoal baguette. One claims to use pâté made with oat milk and moringa. You scroll faster, finally you land on a place you trust. Not because of reviews, but because the photo is slightly blurry and the price is suspiciously low. That's how you know. That's the good kind. You order, you wait, the show plays on. Meanwhile, you think about how me made it into fiction. Somewhere, a screenwriter probably argued for it. Maybe said, it's more than a sandwich. It's identity. It's texture. It crumbles when life does. Or maybe someone just really missed Saigon. Either way, you respect it. The doorbell rings. You open the bag. The bread is warm. The wax paper is slightly damp with oil. The pâté has seeped a little into the corners. Exactly how it should. You sit back on the couch, press play, and eat. And for a strange, quiet moment, you and the fictional character on screen are in sync. Two people in different stories, connected by liver spread and heartbreak. Some historians don't write about this. They focus on migration, innovation, resistance. But they miss how pâté became a metaphor. A pause. A punctuation mark in the middle of someone's very bad day. Because sometimes what heals you isn't therapy, or closure, or revenge. It's a banh mi eaten with your knees pulled to your chest. No fork, no fanfare. Just bread and softness and the kind of flavor that doesn't ask questions. It listens. You finish. Let the last crumbs fall into your lap. The episode ends. You don't even need to rewind. You already know how it ends, with a bite that understands more than words ever could. You're waking up in a hotel room that smells too much like fresh linen and not enough like home. The windows are fogged. The mini fridge hums like it's hiding something. And in the hallway you hear the rolling squeak of a breakfast buffet cart being pushed into place, slowly, apologetically, like even it knows it's too early for disappointment. You shuffle downstairs, slippers, lobby playlist, lukewarm coffee in a tiny cup that thinks it's doing more than it is. And then you see it, tucked between cold croissants and scrambled eggs that look manufactured, a tray labeled Vietnamese Pate. 2 words, 1 betrayal. You approach, slowly, like a ghost visiting its own funeral. There's a bowl, metal, polished, too polished. Inside, a pale gray lump surrounded by melting butter and a thin layer of condensation. A few sprigs of parsley, unnecessary and unconvincing, are placed on top like bad apologies. You pick up a spoon, dip in. The texture is off, too wet, too smooth. No weight, no history. You spread it on half a baguette from the tray next to it, already suspecting the worst. You bite, and yes, it's a trap. No liver, just mystery paste. Bland, faintly sweet, slightly chilled, like someone described pâté to a robot and asked it to guess. You look around the dining room. A tourist nearby adds ketchup. Another pairs it with fruit. A child calls it meat butter and scrapes it off his toast with visible disdain. You feel protective, offended, amused. You finish your bite anyway, just to confirm you were right. Back in your room, you Google the hotel, scroll through reviews. Someone left 5 stars and praised the pâté. Very smooth, excellent for crackers. You shut your phone, lie back on the bed, close your eyes, and suddenly your mind drifts. Not to that buffet, but to the little alley in Saigon. The one with the woman who fried her pâté in a dented pan. Or the man with the bell cart. Or the backyard sandwich wrapped in foil with liver and longing. Somewhere along the way, pâté became just another spread, something to fill a bowl, fit on a toast point, live under a sneeze guard. But you know better. Pâté, real pâté, doesn't sit politely. It waits, simmering, until someone with memory in their hands brings it back to life. You sit up, open your travel bag, pull out the small jar you packed from home, wrapped in 3 layers of cloth, protected like a relic. You don't have bread, no herbs, just 2 crackers from the minibar and a plastic knife. You open the jar, it smells like garlic, like liver, like something carved out of time. You spread it, bite, chew, and there it is. The salt, the fat, the fire. Even here, in this generic hotel, under flat lighting and sad carpet, pâté refuses to be average. It fights its way back to meaning, again one bite at a time. You're in New York now, Midtown. Between glass towers that scrape the sky like they're trying to erase the past. The streets buzz with urgency, everyone moving, swiping, dodging, ordering, posting. Time here isn't kept in minutes, it's kept in notifications. And yet, amidst this blur of ambition, you're standing in line. Not for coffee, not for cronuts, for banh mi. There's a window. That's it. No tables, no chairs, just a small rectangle carved into a brick wall beneath a fire escape. A handwritten sign taped to the glass reads, Banh Mi Pate, $9. Underneath in smaller letters, it's worth it. The people in line look like they've read all the think pieces. Startup guys in Allbirds, fashion interns with ironic mullets. One woman wearing a suit that costs more than your rent but still standing here, cash in hand, looking patient, almost reverent. You reach the window. The vendor, a man in his 40s with flour on his sleeves and a Bluetooth earpiece in one ear, gives you a nod that says he doesn't care what you want, but he will make it excellent. He slices the bread, thinner, crispier than most. You hear the crust give with a crackle that's louder than traffic. Then comes the pâté. It's house-made, obviously, probably organic, probably a family recipe, possibly blessed by a monk. He spreads it generously, no hesitation, and like he knows this is the part that matters. Then cured pork, a touch of pickled red cabbage, artsy, carrot, daikon, cucumber, and a thin drizzle of chili oil that smells dangerously good. A quick dash of soy, a final press, wrapped, handed over. $9, no receipt, no regrets. You find a step nearby, sit, unwrap, bite, and suddenly the city disappears. The pâté is bold, salty, slightly smoky. There's a heat behind it that builds slowly, like a secret. The bread shatters into soft steam. The vegetables plunge and whisper. It's balanced, but not safe. You exhale, because it's good. Too good. You look around. The city is still sprinting, but here you are eating a liver sandwich in a canyon of billion-dollar buildings, and everything feels quiet. Somewhere nearby, a man in a Yankees cap bites into his own banh mi and closes his eyes like he's in church. A couple argue in French while unwrapping theirs. A delivery guy from another block swings by and grabs two, nods and thanks without stopping. The window keeps serving. No PR, no influencers, just a steady stream of hunger and memory. You remember something someone once said? You know a culture has arrived when its food gets expensive. You chew on that, literally. $9 for potato sandwich used to be unthinkable, a joke, a luxury wrapped in irony. But now, it's here. Being sold 3 blocks from a Whole Foods and a WeWork. And no one's laughing. Some call it success. Others call it appropriation. You call it complicated because you're glad it's being seen. But you also remember when banh mi was 5,000 dong and wrapped in yesterday's newspaper. And that version never needed marketing. You finish, brush crumbs off your lap, walk to the corner. As you wait to cross, a young man beside you takes a bite of his sandwich, then mutters to himself, "This is so exotic." You don't say anything. You just look at him, and at the pâté spilling out of his bread and think, to you maybe, to me, it's just Tuesday. It's night now. Somewhere quieter, somewhere smaller. You're back in your hometown. Not the city you were born in, but the one that slowly became yours. The kind with strip malls, laundromats, and that one Vietnamese restaurant that's been there forever, even though no one remembers when it opened. You're in the parking lot. The asphalt's cracked. The neon sign above the shop flickers between cold and open, like it can't decide which identity matters more. Inside, the air is warm, and the tables are sticky in the way that says, "We've seen some things." You're here for one reason. It's Thursday, and on Thursdays they bring out the pâté. The owner, Colon, spots you. She doesn't smile, not at first. She just tilts her head and says, "Lo Roy Kung Thai. Haven't seen you in a while." You nod, awkwardly, like you just ran into a relative you forgot to call on tape. She disappears into the back. The dining room is nearly empty. One guy at the window slurping pho with headphones in. A teenage couple sharing a spring roll like it's a love language, and a ceiling fan that clicks every time it turns left. Your sandwich arrives on a plastic plate with a paper napkin folded into a triangle like a small, well-meaning attempt at elegance. You unwrap it. Slowly, the bread is uneven, toasted over fire, probably with tongs. The pâté is thick, rich, full of cracked black pepper and chopped garlic that didn't fully blend. There are slivers of pork belly, pickled carrot, and daikon that bite back. cucumber just cold enough to contrast. You bite, and instantly, you're home. Not because of the zip code, but because of the flavor. This pâté doesn't care what country it's in, doesn't care about hashtags or plating or foie gras trends. It just knows where it came from, and it's not going to pretend otherwise. You chew slowly, the pepper builds, the fat softens, the bread holds it all together like a childhood secret. Golan walks by and says, I still use my mother's recipe. You nod. Of course she does. You can taste it. You ask how long she's been making it. She shrugs. Tulip Chuko GPS, Chuko Yelp, Chikabung Dai Vanguinyo Kwe. Since before GPS, before Yelp, just hunger and homesick people. That lands deep. You don't answer right away. Some historians won't write about this place. It's not fancy, it's not viral, it's not reinventing Banh Mi. But you realize that's the point. It's preserving it quietly with each sandwich, each smear of pâté that says, no, I haven't changed. I've just been waiting for you to come back. You finish the last bite, the crust scratching your fingertips, the pepper warming your chest. Outside, a breeze kicks up, smells like someone nearby is grilling meat. The stars peek through the streetlight glow. You linger, not because you're still hungry, but because something in you is full, in a way that has nothing to do with food, and everything to do with remembering what it means to belong. You're at a wedding now, not yours, not someone famous, just a cousin's cousin. The kind of wedding where no one quite remembers how they're related, but everyone shows up anyway, because there will be karaoke and dancing, and if the aunties have done their job, pâté. It's in the backyard of a rented hall. Folding chairs, twinkle lights, an uncle in a shiny suit trying to beatbox over a Paris-by-night ballad. The tables are full. Plastic bowls of nuoc mam, overflowing plates of cha jaw, styrofoam coolers of soda, and in the center of each table, mini banh mis, little ones, bite-sized, like banh mis went to a fancy party and put on tuxedos made of wax paper and rubber bands. You reach for one, carefully unwrap. Is soft, not quite traditional, but it forgives easily. Inside there's a layer of pâté that glistens under the garden lights. A single sprig of cilantro, a sliver of pickled carrot, and a whisper of pork floss like a secret waiting to be told. You bite, and it's all there. The warmth, the salt, the hum of garlic and liver and memory. It's like the whole history of your family, and their very complicated relationship with colonial culinary influence has been compressed into a 2-bite sandwich. An older woman sitting beside you, an aunt, a neighbor, someone who once held you as a baby, probably, nods approvingly. Pâté nalam, kubatu, balam mordi kuihaitoi, homemade pâté, and twos. She only makes it for weddings. You nod, mouthful, heart fuller. Across the lawn, someone's cousin is proposing a toast, half in Vietnamese, half in English, all in emotion. He thanks everyone for coming, for surviving, for showing up in suits and dresses and borrowed jewelry, for still being here. He raises his glass and says, to family, to love, and to everything that fits in one sandwich. The crowd laughs, some cheer. One uncle yells, Undi, Goi Rodal. Eat, or it'll get cold. You grab another mini banh mi. This one's a little crooked, the pâté's uneven, it leaks out the side and gets on your fingers. You lick it. It tastes like something earned, because these aren't just snacks, they're stories. You look around at the aunt who brought the pickles, the cousin who baked the bread, the friend of the family who spent all afternoon chopping liver by hand because blender love no mud horn. The blender steals its soul, and you get it now. Some historians would never think to record this moment. They're busy in libraries, chasing treaties and timelines. But here, under backyard lights and echoing laughter, pâté is doing what it's always done best, holding things together, bread and meat, memory and change, love and hunger. You sit back, stomach full, eyes misty, plate in hand. A child runs past you with 3 mini banh mis stuffed in his pockets like edible treasure. And you smile, because when this story gets told someday, no one will remember the speeches. But they'll remember the sandwiches. It's quiet now. It's quiet now. Not silence exactly, just the kind of hush that comes when everything that needed to be said has been. You're in your kitchen, alone. It's late. The world has shrunk to the hum of your refrigerator, the soft tick of a clock you never look at, and the faint scent of something familiar, something you didn't know you missed until just now. There's a baguette on the counter, not fresh but still dignified. You slice it open, gently, like turning the last page of a book. In the fridge, at the back behind the soy sauce and a forgotten lime, is a small jar wrapped in cling film. The pâté, you made it weeks ago, thought it would be a phase, but here you are, reaching for it again like a memory you're finally ready to sit with. You spread it, not too much, not too little. You don't toast the bread, you don't add pickles, you don't dress it up or explain it away. You take a bite. It's soft, rich, barely warm, and you close your eyes, and suddenly, you're in every story at once. On the sidewalk in Saigon, sweating through your shirt beside a cart with 2 jars and a small bell. In a backyard in California where foil-wrapped sandwiches whisper between generations. In a Tokyo alley where miso met memory. In a wedding tent where pâté was passed like heirlooms. In a hotel room defending its dignity from a stainless steel buffet. In a fancy restaurant, a street corner, a suitcase, a war. You're not dreaming, you're remembering. And the remembering is the point. Some people think pâté is just food, just liver, just texture. But you know better. It's inheritance, it's history, it's home, in bite-sized form, carried in backpacks, wrapped in wax paper, tucked into lunchboxes in corner stores and love stories. Some historians still argue about where it started. France, Vietnam, Paris, Hanoi. They write timelines, you make sandwiches. And in this quiet you realize, it doesn't matter where pâté began, it matters where it continues, in hands like yours, in kitchens like this, in moments like now when the world pauses and lets a simple thing, salt, fat, fire, care, hold it together. You finish the sandwich, wipe the corner of your mouth. No music plays, no crowd cheers, no one clicks like, bruh. Just you, just bread, just story. And in the soft quiet that follows, you exhale. You're full, not just of food, but of everyone who ever made this possible. The lights dim, the refrigerator hum fades. You pull the blanket over your shoulders, the world softens, and as your eyes begin to close, you hear it, not from outside, not from a cart, but from memory. O Banh Mi Moi Sang Lakot Oku Chintang. A Banh Mi, each morning is the beginning of victory. Sleep now. You've made it through the story. End of script. Sweet dreams.